I am a small business owner. I run a think tank for sustainable development. But I'm also a business advisor. The kind of person that asks you many questions about how you run your business and then tells you how to do it better. I know, it sounds very annoying, and it is. But that was before the pandemic. Like many of my fellow entrepreneurs, overnight I lost my clients, certainty, and the ideas on what to do next. I could no longer do meetings over coffee. The networking events got cancelled. The travel I booked was out of the question. Usually I would have many to-do lists on my table, but there were no more pendings. I know that some people were still having video calls to replace the interaction and continue business as usual, but every conversation seemed to be lost in the black hole of talking about the pandemic. So after a couple of those, I just decided to take a break. I turned off my phone and all the pop-up notifications. Suddenly, I got time. So much so that I started wondering, what is the meaning of life? What am I doing here? And what am I doing with my life? What got me back was a phrase I heard on an interview during the Financial Times online conference. The head of one of the key financial institutions got a question about support towards small business. To which she replied, "Surely they made savings during the good times." But did they? It's tough to run a business. It is especially tough to do it on your own. The IntraSend report stated that 67% of small firms were severely hit by the pandemic. Another report by the OECD showed that 40% of households at the beginning of the crisis were 3 months away from poverty. We knew the daunting numbers, and yet we did not know what was really happening. There's so much diversity in what small businesses do and how they organize their work that it makes it very difficult for governments to support them. And during the pandemic, it became especially visible. But more importantly, without networking events and any opportunities to mingle, to exchange thoughts and ideas, we entrepreneurs lost touch with each other. We were not aware what others did, thought, or experienced. So I realized that I have to use the time I got to do something to help them. I started asking entrepreneurs I knew how they dealt with the lockdown and what they did to keep their business going. And not in private conversations, but in recorded remote interviews, so that many others can get inspired, learn from it, and get ideas on how to save their business. I must say it was nice to be busy again, but very fast it got a little too busy, with 12-hour working days and doing everything on my own like a one-woman orchestra. And the most difficult part was, after I published the 30 video stories, I had to decide what to do next, how to promote and grow it in this new reality, how to manage the workload, and how to finance it. I continued working on the initiative, while my brain was fixated on the idea, on the old idea, that to do anything in this world you need funding. Many well-wishing advisors told me what I need to do differently or better to get it financed. Now that sounds familiar, doesn't it? I heard everything, from improving my camera quality, to charging the businesses we were trying to help, to even registering a new legal entity. Actually, this whole experience made me seriously reconsider my own choice of occupation. Now anyway, at some point I got 108 tasks on my list, but nothing was giving the results it was supposed to. It was only distracting me from the one task that mattered the most, giving voice to small business. So I stopped and I asked myself, If something happens for the first time, can anybody really be an expert on it? Could it be that the things we knew about how to run the business, grow it, fund it, are no longer relevant in the post-lockdown world? I looked around to see what could I do in these new circumstances. With a noble goal, a think tank, fully online operations, and no funding. And it turned out quite a lot. Instead of looking for money, I went to education and research for support. Together with universities in Latin America and Europe, we started doing joint courses based on the stories from small businesses. We even involved those students into helping the small businesses. Now, another inspiration that I had was for many more entrepreneurs to get access to these ideas in their own native languages. But I could not do that alone. And where do you find help if you don't have the budget, you don't have the sponsors? Well, I thought the best would be to find people who actually want to help. Of course, that's easier said than done. Luckily, as a think tank, we qualified to register on the United Nations platform to find volunteers, and we did. When our first volunteer, a local student from Yucatan, Mexico, was hosting his very first interview, I stayed up till 2 a.m. to just watch it live. I didn't understand a word because I don't speak Spanish, but it felt really special to hear the name of our initiative introduced in another language on the other side of the planet. And since then, we've been hearing it in Italian, German, Hungarian, Indonesian, Tagalog, Hindi, Chinese, and even some African dialects. Did you know that we as small businesses represent half of the productive population of Earth? Think of your favorite bakery or a cafe, a grocery store on the corner, a hairdresser, a carpenter, a yoga teacher. Behind every small business, there is a story, a personal story of following your dreams, of continuing your family profession, of moving to a new country and starting from scratch, of being let go of the job and still trying to make it on your own. Since June 2020, over 150 entrepreneurs from 26 countries have courageously shared their stories. They told us how the lockdown and the COVID-19 pandemic affected their lives, their businesses, and their future. To date, these stories reached over 25,000 people and helped many of them to find ideas on how to save their business. And a very special award for our team was when the United Nations recognized our initiative and the work we're doing as an acceleration action toward the Sustainable Development Goals for its contribution to SDG 8, Inclusive Economic Growth, SDG 9, Social Innovation, SDG 4, Better Education, SDG 5, Gender Equality, and SDG 17, Global Partnerships. Small businesses deserve to be heard. They are resourceful, brave, and optimistic, even in the face of great adversity. Many of them lost their clients, their income, but disregarding their own hardships, they took responsibility for the one who depended on them. Think of a one-woman sustainable fashion business that brings handmade clothing from India to Europe. During the lockdown, she was not able to receive or sell their products, and yet she made sure to pay those artisans in India because they depended on her and her small venture. Or boutique consultancy in Thailand, which instead of pushing sales, helped its clients pro bono to join efforts and come up with a united COVID response plan. Or a restaurant owner in Mexico who continued paying the salaries to his employees even when the restaurant had to be closed and he did not get any support, because he knew that for them and their families, that was the only source of income. All those stories hold so many lessons, ideas, and inspiration. Without any advisors or help, small business owners try, test, and they find their way. Because they don't need to figure out how the new normal works. Instead, they're inventing it and making it work. All they need is to exchange ideas remotely with other entrepreneurs across business sectors and geographies. And that is why we decided, despite all our challenges, and thanks to our volunteers, to continue this initiative in 2021. What we as a society have gained in this pandemic is time and freedom from the past conditioning. I hope with my story I was able to show that if the old system doesn't work for you, it doesn't work against you either. So let's follow the example of small businesses. And instead of figuring out how the new normal works, invent it and make it work. Let's build a better, more equal, diverse and sustainable world together with the ones who believe in it.